doesn't matter how we get to that place that we are trying to find something that connects us with, say, a higher purpose, a higher goal, or higher power. Yeah, none of these are prerequisites. Yeah, we don't have to wear socks. We don't have to be a vegan. We don't have to do yoga. We don't have to go to workshops. Yeah, this is an thing that an impulse that comes to us the moment we realize that whatever it is that we have been doing, that we have been judging, that we have been propagating, that we have been, well, basically that we signed up for, is no longer valid for us. That's the moment when someone begins to awaken. All right? Because you're starting to question the things that you didn't question before. And that is, in my words, when consciousness kicks in. All right? And it doesn't matter how it comes to you. It makes you an awakening soul. And what happens after that is like going back to kindergarten. Hi everybody to our energy talk on Wednesdays here on Skype Live. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy healer, energy coach and trainer. And together we are walking through learning how to express and how to ask questions in regards to these energetic things that we are feeling that is sometimes difficult to talk about. Yes, a heartfelt welcome to all of you. If this is your first time, know that this is non-denominational. It's not a particular teaching or mystic school. I am an energy reader and worker. So from my perspective, everything that I am reporting about here is seen and experienced. And today's topic plays directly into this spiritual visioning. So right now we have a time where the energetic weather conditions are such that we are experiencing a lot of information coming in from the outside, some of it in the scene, like media and social media and so forth, but some of it also in the unseen. So there's energetic stuff going on right now that those of us who are energetically sensitive can pick up on. Maybe you feel this with increased activity at night, I don't know. More intense dreams, lucid dreaming perhaps, easier access to something like when you meditate that we would probably call inner guidance. Yeah, so there is more going on. It's getting crowded, and you guys know this from me. If you are familiar with my work, I report about this in the energy updates, but also do regular trainings about discerning of energies. I have a whole entire class that handles just this awareness of what is my energy, what isn't my energy, what is coming in from the outside, and what are things that I need to address from inside out, or as an inside job. And this still remains one of the biggest challenges in our times. But we have to look at the bigger picture and see that the way we are sort of facing the world today is new. Yeah, in our evolutionary history, we never had to deal with so much information coming in from the outside. We never had access to so much information. And I think it's safe to say, even if we don't look at it just through the spiritual perspective, but there is an awakening going on in people. We realize that with our changing lifestyles, our changing work conditions, and outer information and also disinformation situation, we have to brush up on our awareness around what is true, what isn't, what is good or right for me, what are my needs, what are my goals and calibrate this news. So when you see these headlines that I'm so happy to see nowadays, where science is starting to pick up on consciousness work and trying to prove, the existence of consciousness, obviously the mechanics of consciousness, and that there are actually mechanics that one can form into a law. It's not as mystical as we believe. Those of us who are a little older and who have been around the New Age corner, if you will, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, these energetic things were all kind of mystical because there was really no training there for this. And I don't know about you, but except for the school that I have started here in Orlando, I don't know any school that teaches those kind of things to children. I have not learned this in school. So it looks like we as grown-ups here have to kind of, catch up, I guess. And that's where I see our entire collective right now. Yeah, our entire collective is currently experiencing the problems that come with, this flood of information, not just through media. There's more. Yeah, there's things that people pick up on. There is an increasing number of spiritually and energetically sensitive people. Yeah, and whether or not this is caused by conspiracies or things like that, let's just push this aside for a moment, because at the end of the day, causation is not really helpful when it comes to, well, then how do we deal with it? Causation means, the reason or where it's coming from. Causation is, however, extremely important if you want to develop a strategy or a roadmap to, work through this, to deal with this. And this is where spiritual visioning comes in. There is a workshop that I am doing for all Sacred Self-Healing members tomorrow that goes a little deeper into the mechanics of self-mastery and how we can learn to master or to command our own thinking. But this relates to it. So one of the issues that we're dealing with based on this flood of information is the suspicion or the feeling that we're also being manipulated. Can you send me a thumbs up here if this is something that has crossed your mind? And I don't mean this in a neurotic way, in a paranoid way. I mean this more like, the more we become aware of our own inner dynamics, the more we must ask ourselves, is this like my ego now? Is this my automatic negative inner self-talk? Are those programs, beliefs, mindsets, conditionings that I am sort of founding, my worldview and, my choices, my decisions in life on? And so the first thing that helps me, for example, to identify if somebody is spiritually and energetically awakening is if that person is starting to question their own perception. And here is a little bit of a caveat with this, because, when we question our own perception, and because we've never been trained, most of us automatically also question ourselves in the process. This is something that I want to send to you guys here as empowering message, regardless of how much consciousness work you have already done with yourself, regardless of whether you have had energy training or not. Yes, question your perception, but don't question yourself, okay? Many views in life, how we view relationships, how we view politics, how we view career, money, health, and so forth. Around 80% of them are determined by programming and conditioning. And that means that, probably 80% of your decisions are based on some kind of hardwired, preoccupied, or filtered way of making choices in life. Yeah. So what most of us pick up on is the evidence. Yeah, we live our life, we think we're doing the right things, we're sort of adhering to whatever we think is the right thing to do, and yet we're miserable. We find ourselves in toxic relationships, we find ourselves in jobs that we don't even like, we find ourselves in places where pretty much everything that we've built around us is more or less almost like working against us. And that's where the paranoia can come from. What we don't realize is that it is the sum of all our choices that has led us into that place, which means if you now start questioning your perception, it can help you to filter or to at least identify all these choices that you have made in your life that were basically not coming to you in full consciousness, in full awareness of, say, what it is that, this job or this relationship is steering you toward, yeah, or, where certain life goals, where they're, you know, leaving you as a human with your integrity, with your ethics, and so forth. So without having to go deeper into this, because we're going to discuss this tomorrow, I just want to send this message to you that when you discover that some of your choices in the past were just based on conditioning, like family, how we've always done it, or how it's done, or whatever, what the neighbors think, yeah, then don't be frustrated, because this is absolute 100% normal. Yeah, we are designed that way. Our entire sort of instinctual system, our nervous system, and our psyche, including our ego, is set up for that. That's what secures our survival. Yeah, so if we don't have enough consciousness, well, then at least if we just sort of follow the crowd, we'll most likely survive. That's how nature kind of looks at it. Yeah, that's the fail safe, not for not becoming aware, for not becoming conscious what your true abilities, your true needs and wants, and with it also your true goals and purpose in life should be or is. All right, so when a person wakes up to that, and that is what makes these times so absolutely exciting for me. Yeah, there is a little bit of a period where we sort of fall into a vacuum, because much of our safety or perceived safety came from these frameworks that were based on conditioning and, how our collective does things. But as we are seeing these things one by one, sort of coming down as untruths or as fake this or fake that, yeah, we're beginning to feel a stronger power in us that comes forward as this sort of spiritual impulse, this spiritual yearning. Yeah, and when I use the word spiritual, I actually mean consciousness. I mean this awareness that there is a higher power that works, obviously the world, and that has brought us into existence, but that also works through us. In other words, that we are a part of this somehow. And when a person experiences this as impulse, yeah, to seek that, that is then what we call awakening. And not all spiritual seekers are energetically sensitive, so let's not mix these things up. An energetically sensitive person is someone who, per self-diagnosis, picks up on things around them in their surroundings, yeah, that are not necessarily out in the open. This could be anything from emotions, or you're seeing things out of the corner of your eye, all the way to clairvoyance, where you can see deceased people, you see etheric entities. Yeah, there's a huge degree here, and it's a whole realm, a whole microcosmos, yeah, of how to classify energetic sensitivity. Those of us who are extremely sensitive to emotions of others, who pick up the emotions in a room, in any kind of sort of group experience, or when you're talking to someone else, those we call empaths. Not all energetically sensitives are empaths. Not all empaths are necessarily spiritually awakening people. So you see how this one does not facilitate the other. It doesn't matter how we get to that place that we are trying to find something that connects us with, say, a higher purpose, a higher goal, or higher power. Yeah, none of these are prerequisites. Yeah, we don't have to wear socks. We don't have to be a vegan. We don't have to do yoga. We don't have to go to workshops. Yeah, this is an thing that an impulse that comes to us the moment we realize that whatever it is that we have been doing, that we have been judging, that we have been propagating, that we have been, well, basically that we signed up for, is no longer valid for us. That's the moment when someone begins to awaken. All right? Because you're starting to question the things that you didn't question before. And that is, in my words, when consciousness kicks in. All right? And it doesn't matter how it comes to you. It makes you an awakening soul. And what happens after that is like going back to kindergarten. And that's not an easy process. Not the fact that we have to catch up with the things that we didn't quite learn about what it means to be a human, what it means to be a soul with a body, understanding ourselves as an energetic being. Well, what do we know about this, right? So going back and learning these things is not bad. It's quite exciting, actually. We just have to put this into account, that there are new laws, new mechanisms at work once you begin to see the world through the energetic lens. But what's so hard is that we will discover, and this is what this fight with your ego is about, that we have to let go of things that we took for granted, or that we took as absolute truths, or that we hoped for, or that we dreamt of. The reason is not because it's so harsh, and it's such a bad kind of experience to awaken. It's because in order to be able to investigate and learn, what it actually means to tap into your inner guidance, what it actually means to be or to feel connected, be it with nature or with higher power, what it actually means to be more deeply connected with other people, you have to form what I call a lexicon of inner sensations, reference feelings for that. You have to begin to look at all your interactions in a different way, and that can sometimes be frustrating. Because when you realize that, let's say that those are just examples, most of your friends are actually not questioning things. They're not willing to go there with you, or just sort of start judging you because you're starting to ask questions, or you're starting to question some things. This is normal, that there's a little bit of pushback at first. Also in your relationships, I see this a lot in romantic relationships, for when one awakens, the other gets scared. And so there's a lot of things that we need to learn about this interaction. We have to relearn how to interact with another on this higher vibratory level. But when it comes to just looking at our own spiritual vision and visionings and the mechanics of that, guys, there is something important for you to note. This impulse to seek consciousness is something that is also pre-programmed in us, yeah, because it is part of being human, okay? But it is not enough to know techniques. It is not enough to just, meditate and have sort of random visions, to make sense out of them, to give them the needed relevance, to interpret them in the way that they, actually provide you with wisdom. For as long as we don't know what exactly the context is and what are we picking up on and what channel we are perceiving these visions or this guidance on, everything that you see has very little use for you. And this is a problem with energetic vision or spiritual visioning, because as so many people are awakening to this right now, they're also awakening to their third eye exploding. And this is something that I teach in my energy course and in these ongoing energy sessions and programs, is that just the fact that you see things in your inner mind's eye, or that you begin to, pick up on things more clearly, doesn't mean anything yet. You need to work out the roadmap. Yeah? You need to work out the navigation first. Yeah? It's like when you wake up to the fact that the earth is huge and that there are lots of different countries right around when you're 5 years old or something. But just because you know it's all there doesn't give you any information about what it's like to get there, what it's like to communicate with the people there, interact with the nature, what clothes to wear, what the, sort of ethnic or cultural habits are. These are all things that you still have to brush up on before you can interpret and make sense of your spiritual visioning. And if that does not happen, then I'm afraid what you see is, a bunch of fake stuff out there, a bunch of channelers, a bunch of, people who say they've had a vision or they have a prophecy or something like that, with nobody being able to discern that. It goes all the way to conspiracy theories. And there are mechanics to that. There are ways to verify information. There are ways to locate and identify where this information is coming from. Just like when we do, the true fact-checking, okay? When we do our due diligence, when we do our research, it's the same with spiritual visioning, guys. Yeah. Most people are in the infant stages, even if they see a lot. Everything is more or less scary or, fantastical, unicorns and waterfalls. And, for me, who has trained this, who has worked in this field professionally for 20 years, it's very easy for me to discern that when I listen to other people or when I, have my own visions. Yeah, 80% of them are crap. 80% of them are irrelevant. They have no meaning, okay? They're just sort of psychological recycle stuff in your brain, okay? But 20% of them are significant. And due to the training that I have, I can pick up on what they mean to me, how they're providing me with an insight, yeah, that raises my vibration, that empowers me, that strengthens me. And also, when this information that is coming in or energies that are coming in are hostile or degrading or unhealthy. Yeah, and many of you pick up on stuff like foods, for example, that certain foods just simply don't work for you anymore, or certain places, or a certain climate. That is all part of spiritual visioning. But I want to give you a hint here and what it really is. And that's why for the next 5 months here in our Sacred Self-Healing community, we're going to systematically learn what it takes to understand your own thinking, your own emoting, your own, choosing, your own expressions, and how you can train yourself to what we then call self-mastery, make more conscious choices. But what I want to share with you here is that what really is in the way, and many of you have already figured this out, is the ego in form of these pre-programmed notions. Yeah, so the biggest sort of step, and for most of us the first step that we can make, is to question not ourselves, but what it is that our choices are based on. Yeah, and then, we can go further, like where is this going to lead me? And what's in it for me? And why do I want that? And do I truly want that? Or is that my ego wanting that? Those kind of questions lead you onto the right path. If you are someone who has a lot of visual impact, you get messages or guidance in form of imagery, and visuals. You, in particular, need to learn to discern. Because if 80% of what you're seeing is BS, okay, then good luck without training. Yeah, because there are things that you will see that are part of the collective unconscious. There are archetypes. Those will be things that you think you recognize. You will think you know what they mean, but the context is missing. And therefore, this is basically here what my practice is for. Energetically sensitive, spiritually awakening people, people who are awakening to their healing abilities, need to have support. And I call this self-healing. Yeah, so healing not in the sense because we're so flawed or so wrong. No, because we haven't even uncovered our power of self-healing yet. Yeah, it's all part of the process. So when you have a lot of dreams, a lot of visions, okay, do not immediately jump to conclusions. Do not assume, all right? Discipline yourself to have something like a dream or meditation journal where you write down your perceptions in sort of a scientific manner, and where you divide the information into 5 fundamental classes, namely the different levels of self. This is a physical sensation. So physical sensations, emotions that came up, thoughts that came in, spiritual notions that came in, and some kind of etheric or energetic things that you saw. And then I would always leave a space for doodles or for things that you can sort of sketch, to jog your own memory. But this is how you start. You start paying more attention to your inner visioning, to your meditations, to your dreams. And that communicates to your, that conscious self, that higher self in you, that you are ready. And it will become more and more clear to you over time. But you need navigation help because there is too much disinformation out there. And that's concerning for me as an energy healer, because I can say that roughly 40% of my client cases have to do with misled spiritual beliefs, or not religious, but programmings, where they immediately jump to conclusions as to what this means, where there's absolutely no context for the person, where they were literally just told by others, my aura looks like this, or I'm supposed to be a healer, or, like I have, a demon sitting on my shoulder. So without context and without you being able to trace the steps and begin to see this for yourself, you should not take any advice from other people unless this is a training situation where You're being guided to actually see this for yourself. So it wasn't much of a discussion today because I have to go already, but I hope to have provided you with some markers and, things to think about, also in regards to like how you want to, proceed. So do a dream journal, do a meditation journal, and pay attention, more conscious attention to your dreams and visions and guidance. Yeah, and maybe take a week or two or a whole month to just create something like a track record and then look at it together. You can always book a free initial energy coaching session with me, or one single session if you've already had a free coaching session, to do this with me. Yeah, or you can be part of our classes. If you're interested, in September, we're starting the new energy healer and energy coach class number 1. That is right from the beginning, suitable for everybody. Those of you who have done the energy course get discount. Those of you who are part of the Sacred Self-Healing community, they get discounts because you already learned a few things that will help you. All right. Thank you so much. Share these videos. Subscribe to my email newsletter if you want regular videos, blogs, and transcripts. And yes, question your perception, guys, not yourself. All right. See you on Friday.